Background. We are in the US, a moderately priced eastern coast city. We own a house and a car. Income is jointly $200,000 or more, split more or less equally. Expenses are divided equally. Both have master's degrees. Political and ethical values are almost exactly aligned across all subjects. We have a normal social circle, somewhat diminished by infection 19, with regular interactions, weekly brunches, sports watching, game nights, etc. I am on great terms with her family. Her mother and brother visit 4 times a year and stay with us. My parents visit 5, 6 times a year and stay with us as well. As far as I can tell, she is on good terms with them as well. Both of our parents and relatives are extremely supportive and friendly. Life has been basically easy for the last 5 years, which is ironically one of her complaints. We are just coasting. We are doing great financially, maxing out our 401k, and saving for our kids' education. We are both calm and rational. Fight frequency is around 3 times per year and manifests itself as us just taking time and space apart for a few days. And everything goes back to normal. There is no yelling or physical violence or any discomfort. It's more of an, I need some space to myself right now. Last month, my wife announced she is leaving next month. This came as a complete shock to me. At first, I thought it was a joke, then an attempt to get me to do something, then the realization that she was serious. I have attempted everything I can think of to find a way to move forward together, but all has fallen on deaf ears. I offered counseling, taking time apart, seeing other people romantically, a period of focusing on treating each other with special care and affection, etc. Everything has been dismissed without any thought. Furthermore, I'm not getting a further explanation than, I'm not in love anymore. Okay, now, admittedly, the intensity of the romantic feelings has declined. But I thought this was just the natural cycle of being married. Intense romantic attraction over time transforms into something more stable with age. A form of love where companionship, friendship, non-physical affection takes an increasingly more prominent role as the relationship ages. And I was okay with it. Until very recently, we still had a healthy intimacy life, about 10 times per week. I find her attractive, and it came as a complete shock when she announced seemingly out of nowhere that she wasn't sexually attracted to me anymore. We had disagreements in the past about the frequency of intimacy, and we settled on 2.5 hours per week, whenever possible, of sexy time, devoted entirely to us. At some point, she started making jokes about how my intimacy drive is supposed to slow down at this point, and maybe I should find a younger woman to satisfy me. I thought this was just playful banter. It is my personal belief that a good relationship is based on the quality of the experiences people have together. Earlier in the relationship, we traveled all across the world, taking a month of vacation per year to exotic places. We ran marathons together, played video games together, cooked together, did yoga together, etc. The nature of our experiences together was always overwhelmingly positive. When we decided to have kids, we came to an agreement that we'd stay together no matter what until they were 18. This is part of the reason I feel betrayed now. I realize it's a stupid thing to agree to, but it made sense at the time. Since she got pregnant, everything changed. Our relationship didn't just not take priority, it fell out of the top 10. Work, childcare, her personal hobbies, her extended family all of a sudden became more important. I was cognizant of this change and tried to implement special time for us alone together, but was met with lukewarm responses at best. She was dragging her feet on everything, making it seem that usual things like attending a friend's wedding was all of a sudden a great favor she was doing for everyone. I tried my best to suggest things for us to do together, but increasingly got rejected more and more. Fine. I thought this was just a phase. We'll tough it out and recapture the magic as our kid gets older. I should say that she has been acting depressed, not enjoying life, complaining about work more and more. One complaint she had since our kid was born was lack of support in childcare. In the first 2 years, our child preferred the company of his mother. I thought this was normal and understandable. We tried multiple times for me to give him baths, get him dressed, but he would always start crying and ask for his mother. Since he became 3, he increasingly wants to spend time with me more and more. So, while asking for more help, my wife refused offers for me to make school lunches, get him dressed for school, and walk him to school and back. I'm lost on how to proceed. Goal #1. Discover and work towards a future in which we stay together as a family. Goal #2. If goal #1 is not possible, work towards the best possible future for our kid. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I see 3 things. 1. Possible postpartum depression, PPD. 2. You are not sharing childcare equally, and she seems to be doing most of it. 3. You settled on 2.5 hours per week of sexy time. This sounds to me like she's having unwanted intimacy. That will normally lead to a complete loss of attraction and love. 10 times per week? I don't get the numbers here either. Are you having 10x 15-minute sessions? That's not a wild amount of foreplay. And 10 times per week is 5 times what's normal in a long-term relationship. It's a lot if she's not a very intimacy person and this is a compromise on her part. I don't know, maybe I misunderstood this part. Edit. She's done. I just accept this for now. Try to co-parent in the most peaceful way possible. Edit 2. I'm your wife's age. If my husband was demanding wild amounts of intimacy and seemingly not caring if I didn't want him to have intimacy with me while leaving me to raise a baby alone, I'd kick him so far out of that house, he'd hit Mars on his way. I'm a nice person, but I'd be so done here. I just feel completely unloved and like an unpaid bang maid. Comment 2. Sounds like she has been unhappy for a while. Also sounds like you have been pressuring her for intimacy. 10 times a week means at least 3 days you are having intimacy more than once a day, unless you are doing it 3 times some days. Most married couples have intimacy 2 to 3 times a week, and that is on top of her working full-time and being responsible for all childcare from birth to 2 years old. She is probably worn out, frustrated, and exhausted. Basically, she's done. You've been happy in the marriage. She hasn't. Best to accept it is ending and lawyer up. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, the past 2 weeks have been very eventful. My wife's brother, who usually sides with me, came to visit. He tried to talk some sense into her, but it backfired. She got this idea that we were ganging up on her, and it made things worse. She started staying out late, not saying where she was going, and I was left to put our kid to bed alone. It felt like she was trying to prove a point. Then, out of nowhere, she brought home papers. Divorce papers. She said she had been thinking about it for a while, and that it was the best choice for her happiness. I was stunned. I didn't sign them, told her we should think it over, maybe go to counseling again. She just shrugged and said she'd give me time to come to terms with it. I was desperate, so I did something I'm not proud of. I went through her phone while she was in the shower. I know, a total invasion of privacy, but I had to know if there was someone else. I found nothing, no messages or calls that seemed out of place. It made me feel even worse, like I was the problem. Our kid's birthday was last week. We had a small party, just family. It was tense. My wife acted like everything was normal, but I could tell her family knew something was up. My parents tried to cheer me up, but it was hard to pretend. After the party, my wife said she wanted to talk. She told me she felt trapped, that our life was too predictable, and she needed to feel alive again. She said she was moving out next week, with or without my agreement. I panicked. I suggested an open marriage, thinking it might give her the freedom she wanted, while keeping our family together. She agreed surprisingly quickly. It felt like a solution, but it was a mistake. I didn't realize the weight of what I had suggested until I saw her getting ready for her first date. It hit me then, the risk I had taken, and I felt sick to my stomach. But I had to stick to my word, hoping this would save our marriage somehow. She came back late that night, and things between us were awkward. We didn't talk about it, and I didn't ask. But the atmosphere in the house changed. It was like we were roommates, not a married couple. Our kid picked up on the tension, started acting out, and I didn't know how to handle it. Then, yesterday, she told me she was pregnant. It was a shock. We hadn't been trying, and with the state of our relationship, it was the last thing I expected. She said it was mine, no doubt, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty. I suggested we postpone the divorce, try to work things out for the sake of the new baby. She agreed, but I could tell her heart wasn't in it. I thought I was doing the right thing, keeping our family together at all costs. But now, I'm not so sure. I'm scared I've just delayed the inevitable and made things more complicated. I'm trying to stay positive for our kid and the one on the way, but it's hard. Thanks for hearing me out. Am I the idiot for buying my dream house, despite my boyfriend's threats to leave? All right, this is my first time posting ever on Reddit, so be kind, you weirdos, haha. But I truly don't know what to do. I've been very blessed and fortunate that my parents created a savings account for me to buy my first home. Context: I finished my MA and moved back home to save some cash to buy a house. I moved home about a year and a half ago. I met my now boyfriend. He's doing an apprenticeship in town and wants to move back to his hometown when he's finished, 7 hours away. We've been dating for 7 months. I've managed to save up money, not a crazy amount, around $15,000, to start at least looking around. My parents then told me about the savings account they have for me, around $30,000. I've been really invested in finding a place. I found a place last week, an intensive fixer-upper. Like I'm talking gutting it from the ground up, but it's my dream location in my hometown by the water. And I love the idea of making it my own, obviously with a lot of time, money, and help. I brought this up to my boyfriend, and he's been stonewalling me with everything I bring up about buying this house. Saying things like, that's going to take years to fix. That's going to cost so much to fix, etc. Like I already know this, but it's giving me more of, if you do this, we're through vibes. And I just don't know what to do or say to him that I haven't already. Is this him finding a way out because he wants to move back to his hometown? Is he jealous? I want to be with him. He's truly the man of my dreams. But are we just in different places in life? More info. He is not expected to help with anything to do with this house. He's an electrician apprentice. His apprenticeship ends in around 2 years. The house is being sold by a family friend to me for $120,000, the price of the lot. I don't know how house by the water means a seaside villa. I live in Ontario, so when someone mentions water, it's more like a house by a body of water, that is, a lake. I haven't sent in a letter of offer to buy this place. I'm just seeing how the rest of the world feels about this situation. Side note, if I do put a letter of offer in, yes, I would be able to live at home for the time being. And yes, my boyfriend would be able to live with me at my family home. If he would even want that, I fully understand that it will take years and lots of money to do this, unless I die tomorrow. At my ripe age of 25, I will be able to do this project over time with money that I make. I also didn't know about him wanting to go back home until about a month and a half ago. Clarification: I would be doing this while working full-time from home, and I would be doing this project over the course of 5+ years to either rent, live, or sell it, an investment property for the future. Update: I've already told him that I would also be willing to move to his hometown after he's done his apprenticeship, whenever that is, maybe 2 years. But the program is apparently backed up, so it could be longer. But I just feel like it's a sacrifice he wouldn't do for me, so yeah. I will keep everyone posted on our conversation after he and I talk. He's gone to play golf. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So you're going to give up the home of your dreams for a man you've known for 7 months, who has shown he's not willing to give up any of his dreams for you. What other dreams do you have to give up? You say you just finished your master's, but what if he wants a stay-at-home wife? I guess that's another dream you have to give up for him. Sounds to me like he'd rather have you use your resources on his behalf. You can't live your life for the comfort of others. You can't put aside your wants for the wants of others. That's where resentment comes from. Buy your house. Fix it up. Worst case scenario, you end up moving away, but you have a place you can rent out and come back to. Never sell your first home. It's a premarital asset and no one can take it from you. Comment 2. You're making an assumption. If he's truly the man of your dreams, you should be able to ask him. He may be worried you're going to rope him into fixing up basically a teardown. He may be worried about being rooted in one town. He may be insecure that you have more money than him. He may be worried you're making a bad decision on the house. He may like sad beige condos and think the house is hideous. Point is, Stop making assumptions and talk to him directly. Just sit with yourself beforehand and decide what is a deal breaker and what isn't. That way, if he comes at you stating anything like, "I'll break up with you if you buy that house," you can make a clear-headed decision not motivated by love. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around after my last post. So, here's what went down. After my boyfriend went to play golf, I decided to take a leap and put in an offer for the house. I figured if he's the man of my dreams, he'd support me. Well, I got the house. But when I told him, he lost it. Said I was selfish for making a decision without considering our future together. I reminded him I'd moved to his hometown after, but he said that wasn't the point. The next day, things got worse. He admitted he'd been seeing someone from his hometown whenever he visited, said he felt trapped between two lives and didn't know how to tell me. I was floored. Here I was, willing to uproot my life for him, and he couldn't even be honest with me. I felt like such a doormat, always bending over backward for him. I kicked him out that night. He went to stay with a friend, and I was left alone in my family's house with my new fixer-upper and a broken heart. But I didn't have much time to dwell on it because the next day, the family friend who sold me the house called. They said they felt guilty for not disclosing that the house had some serious foundational issues. Issues that would cost nearly as much as the house itself to fix. I was devastated. I'd sunk all my savings into what I thought was a dream home, and now it was turning into a nightmare. I couldn't afford the repairs, and I couldn't sell the house in its current state without a huge loss. But then, something unexpected happened. My parents, seeing how much I'd been through, offered to help with the repairs. They said they'd always admired my independence and didn't want to see me give up on my dreams because of one setback. With their help, I started planning the renovations. It's been pretty tough, but I'm slowly picking up the pieces. I'm focusing on the house and myself, and honestly, it feels good to stand up for what I want for a change. I'll keep you all updated on the progress. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for losing it after my in-laws reorganized my kitchen and went through my personal documents? Update 1, more background. I got a huge amount of answers, thank you so much. I'll be able to have a conversation with my husband tomorrow, and we'll let you know what happened. Just some background information that I felt unnecessarily to share until now. My husband has extremely nosy and controlling parents. They control all 3 of their children and almost managed to completely estrange the oldest girl. When I met my husband, it wasn't so obvious, but since then, it's clear. The fact that they paid for their tuition makes them entitled to tell them what to do every step of the way. They overrule every partner choice of the middle girl and tried to do the same with my husband and I. They have hours-long screaming arguments over the phone on a regular basis. They have an opinion about the freaking everything, and whatever we do can't be right. Even though we live in another country, they managed to reach out with their unsolicited advice. My husband was the main person for this bullying, but since we're married, I also get some shoot time to time. For a while, I politely declined any kind of controlling behavior and advice. What shall I buy and not to buy? What shall I do and not do? What shall I study, etc.? Now I choose silent treatment. I play deaf and don't answer if I get unsolicited advice, and let my husband deal with it. Until now, 10 out of 10 times, he protected me like a bulldog, and it ended up in a fight between them. 3 weeks ago, they visited us. They stayed for a week and managed to argue through the whole visit, screaming and shouting and crying involved. I had to have an emergency session with my psychologists, and I started to have heart palpitations from stress. My family is not perfect either, but they are extremely loving and supportive people. I experienced this much drama until now in my life, combined with what they did in a week. I lost sleep and started having night terror again. My husband told me he appreciated how patient I was and how kindly I behaved while they were here, although they gave me every reason not to. He also told me that since his dad's cancer, he is depressed. To be honest, since I know this man, he has the same mean attitude towards his wife and children. I think even my husband feels helpless and is searching for excuses. Anyway, after they left 10 days later, I also left to visit my family to visit them and celebrate Mother's Day and my dad's birthday. Then my husband's parents decided to come back for another week while I'm not there. I had no issue with that at all until I realized they reorganized my kitchen, the only thing I told my husband not to touch. I even told my husband that I told my psychologist how threatened and violated I feel with his mom. Bringing up my kitchen being shitty, it was literally a symbol of my apartment being violated not just by repeated arguments, but by them telling me I do whatever I want here. I wanted them to leave so I can fix it with my husband. Instead, I got it fixed by her. And they just retired a month ago. Now I am terrified they'll keep coming back. Every month I have a long home office job. My office is the guest room, and I study for CFA Level 1, which is a crazy exam. I told them not to do it 2 weeks ago, repeatedly, for 3 days, when they kept telling me that my kitchen is badly organized. And they made a good job organizing their daughter's kitchen very well. I kept turning them down nicely. But because my husband, 35 years old, agreed with them, I told him that we can do it the way we like it when I am back from my holiday. Then I left to visit my parents, and they managed to organize my kitchen without my consent. I feel infuriated and also embarrassed that I care, but it's our kitchen, not theirs, and I said no. Therefore, it should have been a no, and my husband and I could have done it instead of them. How shall I react? They only visit us 2-3 times a year, and they stay for 2 weeks. I don't want to keep grudge, but I feel like they went behind my back to show power and the upper hand. They have a strong tendency to give advice and keep telling us what to do, and this is the tip of the iceberg for me. Any thoughts? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I once told my parents, "You tried to do me a favor, and now you gave me a job to do after getting back from a long trip. Thanks for that." And I undid everything they did. They never did it again. Comment 2. Set it up the way you prefer it and tell your husband he needs to support you. Also, never allow your in-laws to be alone in your home ever again. Now for the update. A lot has happened since my last post. So, here's the update. After I got back from visiting my family, I found out that not only had my in-laws reorganized my kitchen, but they also went through our personal documents. They claimed they were just trying to help with our finances. My husband, bless his heart, didn't see the big deal. He said they were just being thorough. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my privacy had been completely violated, and my husband was just letting it happen. Then, as if that wasn't enough, my mother-in-law decided to throw a surprise family meeting to discuss our future plans, without even asking us. She invited all the relatives and basically announced that we were planning to start a family soon. News to me. I was mortified. Everyone was congratulating us, and I just stood there fuming and embarrassed. My husband tried to play it off, but I could tell he was caught off guard too. The aftermath was a mess. Relatives kept calling to give us baby advice, and my in-laws were basking in the attention like they'd done something great. I felt walked all over, and my husband just kept saying we should let it blow over. I was so angry, I started avoiding calls from his side of the family altogether. But then, my sister-in-law, the middle girl, had her own news. She announced she was leaving her partner, the one our in-laws had handpicked for her. Turns out, she'd been seeing someone else on the side, someone she actually loved. The family was in an uproar. My in-laws were furious, saying she was ruining the family's reputation. But she stood her ground. It was like watching someone finally stand up to the school bully. Seeing her take control of her life made me realize I had to do the same. I couldn't keep letting my in-laws dictate our lives. So, I made a decision. I told my husband that if his parents didn't start respecting our boundaries, they wouldn't be welcome in our home anymore. It was a tough conversation, but I was done being the doormat. My husband was shocked, but he understood. He finally stood up to his parents, telling them they needed to back off or they'd risk losing both their children. It was a tense few days, but eventually my in-laws apologized. They said they didn't realize how much they were overstepping. I was skeptical, but I appreciated the effort. For now, things are quiet. My sister-in-law is happily planning her future with her new partner, and my in-laws are keeping their distance. I'm just hoping it lasts. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.